Senators from Twitter are set to question Elon Musk under oath in a deposition this week. It's part of the fallout over his $44 billion acquisition.
I do think it does look a lot like Mr. Musk is trying to get out of the sale because, frankly, the market turned against him. And as a result, he's really looking to find any evidence he can to try to give himself some leverage in negotiations with Twitter. What we've seen so far, publicly at the very least, is that Twitter actually did provide a lot of data to Mr. Musk, which is a problem for him because he's claiming, of course, that there was a lack of information provided to him. I really believe that both sides are going to ultimately settle this case. It's just going to take some time. I think, in his mind, he decided at a certain point he didn't want to buy Twitter, and his lawyers are trying to search for some misrepresentation that Twitter made that they can hook on to.
And we know that Musk is saying that Twitter's not being upfront about the number of bots and fake accounts they have. What standing does Musk have there, and how does Twitter respond?
In this video, a juicy new Tesla AI Day 2 teaser, Tesla stock bucks the trend on a very red day, and more experts weigh in on the Elon Musk versus Twitter saga. And before we get into it, if you want to instantly unlock over 100 exclusive videos, plus my 10-year Tesla stock price targets and loads of other perks, including optional access to my Tesla valuation model, join our growing community of thousands of supporters on Patreon with the link in the pinned comment. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment-themed merch in the merch store. So Tesla stock bucked the trend today, a sea of red in the stonk market. Tesla closing up 0.25%, $276.01 per share. And as I mentioned in recent videos, with Tesla AI Day 2 around the corner, almost certain to massively disappoint the so-called experts, stock analysts, the finance media, many retail investors as well. I expect the entire event to go over most people's heads. We really have the perfect storm. Year to date, Tesla stock down over 30%. And that's before the market reacts to AI Day 2. I, for one, am making the most of this epic, prolonged buying opportunity. Let's just leave it at that. We can see the NASDAQ 100 today down 0.5%, so pretty impressive that Tesla was up. A little bit of context, given the fact that we're discussing Twitter later in the video, let's have a quick look at Twitter stock since IPO. A stunning, truly stunning, and I mean stunning in the literal sense, stunning return of negative 0.31% since IPO, almost a decade ago. Kind of embarrassing. Just to provide some contrast, let's compare Twitter stock since IPO to Tesla stock since IPO. As we can see here, this is real, that yellow line along the bottom there, that's Twitter stock, the blue Tesla. Kind of embarrassing. You know what? Maybe this is a little bit unfair. Let's look at the last 5 years specifically. Twitter going absolutely nowhere and Tesla heading toward the moon, although a very bumpy ride. But hey, let's not be too hard on Twitter after all. When no one on your board owns any meaningful share of the company, and I literally mean that, last I checked, I own more in dollar amount of Tesla than anyone on Twitter's board individually owned of Twitter. It's a very hard job. There's no point focusing on monetizing an incredible asset when instead you're busy shadow banning, fact checking, censoring, perma-banning, interfering in the democratic process, spreading your woke agenda, and accidentally making mistakes that, for some incredible reason, all happen to work in the favor of your own political views and that of 99.9% of the employees, talk about groupthink, and miraculously also universally punish those who don't share your political views. So, let's not be too hard on Twitter. They've had much more important things to focus on than actually monetizing that incredible asset that is Twitter. Like saying there's no laptop right before the election. Oops! I'm just kidding. Twitter would never interfere in elections or the democratic process. They'd never shadow ban people, and it'd never conspicuously always go in one direction. I'd made all that stuff up there, doing a very serious job. Very important business. And what is that very important business they've been doing? Other than suppressing opinions they don't agree with and spreading the woke agenda, they've been meticulously counting bots for every SEC filing every quarter, because it's very important work and they've got to be very meticulous when doing so. So don't be too hard on Twitter. After all, distinguishing bot accounts from real human beings to make sure that you have the exact same estimate every fucking quarter in your SEC filings is very hard work. So I don't blame them at all. Now, as promised, a juicy Tesla AI Day 2 teaser from none other than Dennis Hong. If you're new around here, you might be thinking, who the fuck is Dennis Hong? Dennis Hong, Professor, Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering at UCLA, Director, Romella Robotics and Mechanisms Laboratory. In other words, one of the world's experts on robotics. Imagine that. So we've got an interesting graphic here, Cybertruck vibes. Let's see if we can spot anything interesting in this picture. Nothing to see here. Wrong. Using my mad Photoshop skills, we can confirm that the haha yes hedgehog is tucked away in this picture. This isn't a G-up, it's really there. Check for yourselves. Back to the original. Other than that, just seeing a very futuristic scene, few humans here doing their thing, distracted on phones. The folks crossing the street, more Cybertruck info in the background here. AI Day, ooh, what's that? Interesting. Could this be a sneak peek of actual actuators in the actual Tesla humanoid robot? Or is this just a placeholder? No idea. Let me know your guesses in the comments below. We can also see the Tesla Dojo chip stack there as well. Nothing particularly new here. Gigantic Tesla bot head blended into the background. Many people might miss that. What else have we got here? Tesla in the background, looking a little squished. Might just be the camera lens, and a bunch of Tesla humanoid robots chilling with actual people. Now it may just be me. This building just to the left of the bot in the foreground doesn't quite look like a regular building. In fact, it almost looks like it might be a supercomputer. Here's the full thing. If you guys can spot anything else of interest, let me know. I don't think too much has been given away here. Cool picture, nice promo, invites apparently being sent out now. Looking forward to seeing what's actually unveiled at AI Day 2. And once again, just want to remind everybody, 2 words will sum up the mainstream media and the analyst reaction to AI Day 2. You can fucking count on it. Ready? Word number 1. They both start with the same letter. Disappointed. And number 2, distraction. Don't say I didn't warn you. And while we're on the topic of bots, now time to hear from a few experts on Elon Musk versus Twitter. The saga continues.
Elon Musk and Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal are both reportedly seeking to reschedule their depositions in that lawsuit over Musk's $44 billion buyout. Well, former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti joins us with more on this. So what do we know about the reasons someone would typically do this at this stage of a case?
Well, I think there's no question that Mr. Musk is not eager to get deposed. He wants to delay as long as possible until he gets more information, more discovery from the other side, because the more discovery he has, the more he can tailor his testimony to the discovery that they see and hear.
So far, so good. Makes sense.
I do think it does look a lot like Mr. Musk is trying to get out of the sale because, frankly, the market turned against him. And as a result, he's really looking to find any evidence he can to try to give himself some leverage in negotiations with Twitter.
I find it amusing that so many of these so-called experts are all jumping to the same conclusion. Elon's got cold feet. He's changed his mind. The market tanked, therefore he wants out of the deal because now he's paying too much. Of course, I do understand how arrogant I sound saying, hey, all these experts are saying the same thing and they're all dead fucking wrong, but I do just want to make it clear. They're all dead fucking wrong. I've said it a trillion times. Elon wants to buy Twitter. I repeat, Elon wants to buy Twitter. He just doesn't want to get fucked in the ass while doing so. It's really that simple. Now, of course, if you're in a position to negotiate, you're going to negotiate as hard as you can. But he doesn't want out of the deal. He just wants to make sure that he isn't buying a company who's been lying repeatedly to the SEC about material information that will adversely affect the numbers he's done in his turnaround plan. That simple. I don't know why, but almost all of the experts continue to jump to the conclusion. It's almost as if they assume the worst. Now he's looking for an excuse to get out of the deal. Do none of these dolts understand the reason that Elon wants to buy Twitter is to allow people to freely exchange their thoughts, opinions, and ideas within the bounds of the law, to uphold the principles of free speech, that this is fundamental to a functioning democracy? This is effectively a $40+ billion act of philanthropy. Elon can see what's going on, so can I. I mean, guys, hello, wake the fuck up. The woke mind virus is destroying the world. Twitter is infected. As I mentioned earlier in this video, almost every single mistake Twitter has made in fact-checking, banning, censoring certain information has favored one half of the political aisle. The same half that practically everyone working at Twitter identifies with. This company is a fucking dumpster fire. Without Twitter's interference, suppressing the laptop story with Hunter Biden just prior to the previous presidential election, there's a very strong probability the outcome of the election would have been different. This was a tipping point. This is not a good path. Elon can see where things are headed. The dumpster fire of all dumpster fires is only going to get worse unless someone intervenes, and he's one of the few people able to actually do so.
And we know that there are a number of subpoenas have been issued for depositions, including for Larry Ellison, Jack Dorsey, of course. Do we have any sort of the fruits of some of these depositions that have come out so far?
Yeah, I think right now, what we've seen so far publicly, at the very least, is that Twitter actually did provide a lot of data to Mr. Musk, which is a problem for him because he's claiming, of course, that there was a lack of information provided to him. He's also making a claim based on a bot website that a very high percentage of Twitter users are bots. Unfortunately for Mr. Musk, even the owner of that site indicates that their data, that their analysis is not exactly accurate, something that couldn't be relied upon. You know, Mr. Musk is also, I think, relying a lot on some claims that that were made by Twitter in an SEC filing, and which of course are heavily caveated. So I think thus far, a lot of the testimony is as you would expect, and the question I think remains is whether or not there's going to be specific performance ordered by the court, which would force Mr. Musk to purchase Twitter, even though at this point he doesn't want to do so.
Now, we know that Elon Musk did waive due diligence. How much of what is happening outside of that, though, is perhaps covered? Does due diligence essentially rule out whether or not Musk will succeed in this case?
It really makes it an uphill battle for Mr. Musk. Waiving due diligence is something I would not ordinarily counsel a client to do. And when you do that, it's really hard after the fact to make claims after you signed an agreement to purchase to say there's more information I need, even though I waived due diligence, and I'm going to try to kill the deal over that. Very, very difficult claim, one that I don't think most lawyers would like to be making.
So in terms of the path forward here, in terms of success on Twitter's side or success on Elon Musk's side, what sort of options do they have ahead of them?
I really believe that both sides are going to ultimately settle this case. It's just going to take some time.
I agree. I personally believe out-of-court settlement, lower purchase price, Elon follows through with the deal, even if he knows he's getting kind of f***ed in the ass because Twitter doesn't end up providing sufficient information to substantiate their bot claims. As long as there's enough of a reduction in the purchase price that can account for this issue, I think Elon's going to complete the transaction and it'll be in everyone's best interest if the deal closes. I also, as I've said, really don't think Twitter wants to get in court through the information discovery process and have people whose eyes work and brains work looking through what Twitter's been doing behind the scenes, especially as it relates to calculating their bot numbers.
Elon Musk has every incentive to try to fight. He has every incentive to try to delay, which is maybe why we saw this recent news that he's trying to delay his deposition. Because the longer he delays, the more he can convince Twitter that this is a sideshow. It's distracting its company. It's potentially not allowing them to move on towards other potential goals that they have. On Twitter's side, Twitter's doing what you would expect a company to do when it has shareholders that have consummated a deal to make a lot of money over their current share price, right? So, Twitter is trying to swiftly bring this to consummate the deal and require specific performance. Musk is trying to drag it out. I think eventually there's going to be a settlement here.
And we know that, of course, we had the Twitter whistleblower going in front of lawmakers. How much did that shift the needle? And what, if anything, could shift the needle going forward in this case?
I do think it did shift the needle just because up until then, really everything was going Twitter's way here. I think it did give Mr. Musk something to grab onto. I think, in his mind, he decided at a certain point he didn't want to buy Twitter. And his lawyers are trying to search for some misrepresentation that Twitter made that they can hook on to.
Vehemently disagree. As I said, he wants to buy Twitter. He just doesn't want to get f***ed in the ass while doing so. That being said, Elon and his lawyers are no idiots. They'll use everything they possibly can to negotiate the price lower, to discover the necessary information to make the transaction. But this is not an attempt to back out of the deal.
I think the whistleblower did help. But I think going forward, I still think Musk is in a difficult position. Ultimately, there's a reason why Musk wants to delay, obviously partly because it gives him more leverage, but I think also there's a hope that another whistleblower will come forward or something else will come out. The more he has to work with before he locks himself in to what his reasons are for not wanting to consummate the purchase, the better.
So between now and the October court date, what are you keeping an eye on?
Sure. Well, I think I'm really keeping an eye on Mr. Musk's Twitter feed. It's not a coincidence that Mr. Musk had his own tweets referenced in the filing from Twitter. There's no question that he has done things that most litigants wouldn't do. So I'm always interested to see what admissions he's going to make, what statements he's going to make. Definitely, he's must read Twitter, so to speak. So I will be keeping an eye on that, but I'm also going to really see and keep an eye on what, who is deposed, what revelations do get, publicly told about what is coming out of those depositions. And I think, I'm also going to be interested to see whether or not, for example, Twitter makes any filings publicly that are going to say anything relevant to the facts that ultimately are in dispute here related to the bot issue.
We know all this drama is certainly not helping Twitter's share price, at least.
Lawyers from Twitter are set to question Elon Musk under oath in a deposition this week. It's part of the fallout over his $44 billion acquisition.
Yeah, Musk scrapped his bid to buy the company in the summer, and that led Twitter to sue Musk to try to force him to follow through with that deal.
More on this, let's bring in Addie Robertson, a senior reporter for The Verge, and NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Good morning to both of you. Addie, let's begin with you. This deposition expected to take 2 days, maybe 3 days if necessary. What's expected to take place? What information is Twitter trying to get from Musk here?
The basic thing that Twitter is trying to get from Musk is an admission that either he already understood the scope of the bot problem on Twitter and that he's really not worried about bots. He got cold feet in the deal, and they're trying to dig up information that suggests that there were other reasons why he would have put it on hold.
So apparently Twitter trying to fish for information, proof, evidence that Elon Musk just changed his mind and no longer wants to go through with the deal, rather than being concerned about getting fucked in the ass. Good luck proving that, Twitter.
And we know that Musk is saying that Twitter's not being upfront about the number of bots and fake accounts they have. What standing does Musk have there, and how does Twitter respond?
Well, first, this deposition, I can't believe it's only predicted to last 2 days. This could be a 4-day deposition with all of the information. Believe me, Twitter's lawyers have their pencils sharpened, stacks of exhibits to show Musk. And the key will be, what did you know? And when did you know it about bots? What were your expectations going into this deal? And if you say those were your expectations, show us the receipts. Show us the documents, the emails, everything else that made it reasonable for you to say that you did your due diligence and this bot problem was something that was unanticipated. Although it's a lot more complicated than that, in a way, it can be boiled down to that simple inquiry. And the thing about a deposition, we don't see them often in movies. They're not sexy, but they are quietly where all the work gets done in a civil case. Civil cases are won or lost at the deposition, and this is the biggest opponent, dollar-wise, arguably, in the history of depositions.
Right, Addie, in a court filing earlier this month, Musk accused Twitter of fraud. This after a whistleblower testified before Congress alleging security vulnerabilities, oversights at the company. Twitter said the claims are without merit. Does that factor into this week's deposition, and if so, how?
One of the things that Twitter has requested that it hasn't formally gotten yet is information about, as you said, what Musk knew and when he knew it about the whistleblower claims. So it's possible that it's going to question Musk about whether he was aware of this information and whether possibly they have argued that, yeah, these claims are without merit, that they really are completely specious, and he'll likely get questioned about that.
And Danny, what's next following this deposition, and what movement should we expect leading up to that trial that's expected to start next month?
Here's what usually happens to me after I take someone's deposition. I make a list of all the things that I learned during the deposition that, hey, you never provided us that document. I demand those documents, and then as to all the things that Musk says, oh, yeah, I put that somewhere in some document, I put a follow-up request for those documents as well. So the deposition can often beget more depositions, more discovery. But the catch here is that this is not a case where you have 2 or 3 years to wait for trial. This thing's moving on the rocket docket. So after this deposition, the work has only just begun. And they don't have a lot of time to do it. So they got to get all their discovery done and figure out if there's anybody else out there that they need to ask questions under oath.
Sounds like the coming days and weeks are going to be anything but boring. Looking forward to watch this play out. I also recommend reading the transcripts from Elon's deposition. It is amazing to hear Elon in a court of law. Huge brain, absolute savage. If Elon wasn't busy using his brain for other projects, he could easily represent himself. I still think settlement is most likely. I still think Twitter will refuse to substantiate their bot claims because they can't. I think Twitter's going to do everything within their power to avoid getting done for securities fraud. But hey, I don't know what the I'm talking about. I'm just some idiot on YouTube recording videos in my mum's basement. Leave it to the experts because they know best. So let me know what you guys and girls think in the comments below. How will the Elon Musk versus Twitter saga play out? And also, any predictions for Tesla AI Day 2? What will we see? What won't we see? And of course, how will the so-called experts react? And lastly, don't forget you can support the channel and instantly unlock well over 100 exclusive videos and up-to-date access to my Tesla stock price targets out over the next decade by joining Patreon with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment. See you over there. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel and instantly unlock over 100 exclusive videos, plus my 10-year Tesla stock price targets and loads of other perks, including optional access to my Tesla valuation model, join our growing community of thousands of supporters on Patreon with the link in the pinned comment. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. Please let me know your thoughts on today's video in the comments below and click the card on screen now to watch the next video.